Hello. My name is Ryan. Thank you for tuning in to our 1123 series, Advertising is an Investment. We have two of our partners with us today, Dave Distefano, our
Hi.
partner slash creative director,
Yep.
and Shana Boyd, a partner slash account director. How's it going?
Doing good.
Great.
First cup of coffee today.
Your cup of coffee vanished in the skyline behind
saw
you when you raised it, so a toast to that.
My background.
So this is our first installment in our series of advertising is an investment. It seems like a simple phrase, but to be honest with you, it's quite loaded, and there are a lot of tiers and layers that go underneath that. So we thought it would be beneficial to have somebody from both the creative and media side to talk it through and educate us. What does it mean when we say advertising is an investment? So which one of you would like to start with your little synopsis, creative or media side? What is advertising? Let's flip a coin. Dave, what is advertising?
What is advertising? Wow.
Yeah.
Okay. I didn't think that's going to take a while. I think the advertising just in the subject matter we're talking about here, it's a matter of like there's branding, there's direct response, there's, follow up and retention things. There's all kinds of aspects to advertising. So like that's asking like what is the earth? There's a whole lot to that. But for what we're talking about, it's a portion of your budget that you use to communicate with your audience or your customers to make sure they remember you, make sure they use your product, make sure they love you and your product. They know where you stand and, if you match up with their values and what they look for in a product. So it's a lot of things. It's that though at its highest. Shana, you can, disagree with me if you want or add to that.
I think you covered it very well,
Yeah.
actually.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. I was going to be more scientific with it. The external
No.
communication.
Yeah. No,
You
me
got
too. All right. I'm good. I'm done. That was my point.
Okay, so Dave did a good job of describing advertising. When you ask somebody, do you advertise? It isn't necessarily black and white per se. Yes, there are a lot of pieces to it. Dave alluded to identifying a budget. Maybe first you identify goals. Shana, talk a little bit about that process. And when somebody comes to us and says, hey, we want to advertise, it's just not, okay, let's do it. There are a lot of questions and a lot of things to work through.
Yeah, I think you hit it on the head. There are a lot of questions. So I think one of my favorite things to do would be learning about the client and learning about the brand and some of the goals. So like you said, not just assuming. We don't just do a crawl of the website. We don't just say, hey, what's your budget? Okay, we'll work with that. Sitting down with somebody for an hour, 2 hours, and really learning about the brand, where they've been, what they've done. What do we want to see for that brand in the next year, 5 years, 10 years? That's something to note too, is advertising is an investment. You often start to see the residual after the first year of, working with us or working with anybody on a campaign. You start to see some uptick in response that you set based on the goals of the client, but really starting to see that impact down the road. So building out that plan and learning about what we need to do in the future for that brand.
And as Dave alluded to, there's multiple different types of campaigns, maybe branding. So it's going to take a year to really see the payoff. What if it's more short term, an event or a seasonal client? And then it's completely different.
That's true. So we have a lot of those. We have a lot of seasonal. We have a lot of event-based clients. So that's where, again, sitting down with the client and figuring out what's the goal. In that case, if it's event-based, a lot of times it's, attendance. So we're looking for a certain amount of attendance. And if we worked with them for 5-6 years, what's that lift look like? Once we identify what that looks like, then the media and the creative are developed to reach that goal. So a lot of times it's high impact, knowing that we've got a short time frame for the response to happen.
So when you know the goals, You know the objectives, you know some of the KPIs and the lift you're looking for over the next 6 months, a year, 2 years. How do you work with somebody, much like a financial planner, to say how much you should invest in media, how much you should invest in creative? Like I want to advertise, how much of this does that cost? How do you guys do that? You guys just don't pick a number out of the sky.
Oh yeah, no, that's what I do. Dave?
You do? Oh.
Mine involves, you ever seen the Seinfeld episode where the holistic healer has the triangle on his head? We sit in a circle.
I have not seen that.
Yeah.
No.
Yeah.
In all seriousness.
There's math. There is math involved.
There's math.
Which means that the creative guy's out. I'm not. So. I'll wait till the math is done and then you just tell me. Yeah.
Honestly, it's based a lot by industry. So we're looking at probabilities of revenue in a lot of these aspects, which I know, you don't necessarily say, okay, a lot of times we don't measure and say that we're promising a certain revenue lift. We're looking for leads or website traffic or some type of an information piece that gets them to that goal, right? But a lot of QSR, we're looking at anywhere from 5% to 7% of gross sales. That's kind of that range that they want to look at for developing out the advertising budget. And obviously, a lot of stuff falls into that too. It's not just the external pieces that we work on. When we're looking at other clients, like for example, home improvement, it's a little bit more like 8 to 10%. That's kind of that range that you look at. And what that does is it helps not only you see the lift you're working towards in that first year, but that percentage increase, if we're doing our job and they start to see that lift, having those benchmarks allows us to continue to help them grow their brand year after year. So that's why those percentages, I think, are important.
Creative can be, you have a wide range of scope, like as far as what you execute. So, there's a customer going like, well, is that 7 or 10%? Are they, or somebody out there's watching going like, is that 7 to 10%? Does that include my creative? Like, some branding campaigns are way beyond that. And so I think, I think in certain situations where you get into like a bigger company that's national, a lot of times you may end up spending a little bit more on the creative side of things to create, let's say, a Super Bowl spot or, something big like that, to where, that's where the investment in creative, usually in branding, usually those things are branding efforts. That's where that comes into play, is like, it's a little bit extra for that. The regular sort of like, the strategic buys that keep you on, like the stuff that Shana's talking about, those things, I mean, that's your percentage for like your yearly spend for that. A big splash creative, effort would be probably separate from that. It just depends on what you've got scale wise and what things cost and how big your company is. And if you're looking for, direct response or heavy branding or a mix, like there's a lot going on there. I think a lot of places that sell anything, a widget, of any kind, whether you eat it or you use it or wear it, you're going to need both. So it's just how you want to balance that out and what your goals are.
Yeah, and a lot of times too, we see maybe year one of the 7 to 10%. I'm just throwing that out there again. A lot more of it goes towards creative, like you're saying too. So maybe they are at like 11, 12% when it's all said and done, but they got a fabulous campaign. Sure. Well, then, the way that we work, it would be the goal is to be able to use pieces of that for a while. And then maybe there's like variable edits in year 2 that are lesser of a cost, but it's part of the plan. And then we continue to build more into the outreach. Or the other piece of it that I think a lot of agencies are getting into nowadays too, are just being an extension of people's teams. So they're part of that budget percentage could go to essentially helping them with internal marketing tasks as well. But end result, it's helping the external advertising communication. So it's all part of that investment.
Yeah, there's like an investment of like effort. There's an investment of, like you said, an extension of a team. It's not just like, hey, money goes from here outside to agency. If the partnership's right, especially when it comes to our agency, if the partnership's right, then that's also, you have to look at that as part of your investment too in your marketing dollars. It's like now you have somebody who almost works partially in the building
Yeah.
with you or in your organization with you, advocating on the marketing side.
So let's say somebody comes to you and they're like, this is great, Dave and Shana. I saw your video and you talked about investing so my business grows. It's an X 100,000 or X $1 million business now, but I really liked how you said I could invest with you and my business would grow. But they come and maybe they're saying I'm investing so my business grows, so I have the money to invest 5, 8, 10%, but I can't do that now. But you can still make my business grow, right? How do you navigate some of those challenging conversations?
Yeah, that's a great question. And it does happen. So I think that you have to really learn. I keep saying the word goal, and I know that's very open-ended, but we need to set up benchmarks that are realistic. So if they're not able to do the 5 to 10% or whatever we're recommending, then we need to be able to move the bar a little bit on what we're expecting for the measurable outcome. We might not be able to hit the pie in the sky revenue goal that will come with spending, the full 8 to 10%, let's say. Right. We might still hit lead goals. We might still get there, but we just can't promise that. So that's where, again, it's just a variable and these are benchmarks, and we just need to be realistic with the people that we work with and work very closely with them to set up those expectations at the very beginning.
I agree. That was pretty well said. Yes. When you kind of hit on like a yearly investment thing, but like there's a chance where like a certain client that we just did a big campaign for, long edit, but like the creative extends beyond like a yearly budget, a percentage of a yearly budget. The creative actually goes across a couple of years. And so I think in a way, sometimes, at least in my department in creative, like you can create something that's supposed to have legs. And so if you look at your yearly percentage, you may be paying for 2 years on something that is going to take you 2 years. You may invest more money now that extends into your budget for the following year in branding, but you're extending out the use of that. So what's a higher expense now may have longevity. And I think in branding, and I'm harping on branding right now, but like it's a different kind of thing where it's not just like beginning of year, end of year. It can extend out and it can become sort of its own life. And then the investment in that brand could pay off more if your branding campaign is successful, and then more things spin off of it. You're investing for a longer period of time. I think with a lot, there's a misconception on the creative side sometimes, not with everybody. I think some people get it, but I think a lot of people who are maybe from more accounting or analytical backgrounds are going like, okay, number, like beginning of year, end of year. This is my profit and loss for 2020, whatever. Okay, so you're looking at those numbers hard, but as somebody who you asked to do a branding campaign for you or like a messaging campaign, I'm looking at this as I'm starting a mural. Okay. So I'm making pieces of a mural that are going to be done in 4 years. I want to start you somewhere. I have to start drawing the lines. So maybe the lines are the first 30-second spot of your campaign and the main message. You paid for that. That lasts you a year. We do some spin-offs, more pieces of the mural go in. So like that's done. So we have to kind of keep things going. If you start the ball rolling on a branding campaign, you just can't go unless you want to, which I don't know, but like you can go beginning or end of the year. You can't just go beginning or end of the year and say that's it. It should build on itself. And when it's done, that should be in my opinion, a longer campaign with a lot of pieces and parts that make one big image.
That's a really good way of saying that. And that just kind of makes me think on the media side too. A lot of times if it's the first endeavor with a client, TV or some of those long form media pieces do make a lot of sense because we're trying to build a brand and build an emotional connection with the customer. Mm-hmm. And so I look at it as year one on a media perspective could look very different year two on a media perspective, because as we continue to like build our brand and gain a relationship with the customer, we can start adding in some more short form media.
Right.
We always are looking for long form on a digital side as well, but it might be year one, we're utilizing more of that 30-second piece on a digital side. And then maybe year two, we can get some short form pieces mixed in, and they're just reminders of the brand recognition. So I agree with you. I think that you have to look at it. You have your foundation, and then you continue to evolve and build upon that in year two, year three, year four, even on the media side.
Yeah, and not to, I mean, because the media strategy, the way people actually see, putting the wheels on the creative and getting it out to the right people, that's a whole that's another one of those mural situations where you're starting here, but you're trying to get way out, big picture.
Right.
So yeah, it's the same concept. You're building on something. And that's why a lot of times when we start with, when we have people work with us, sometimes there's a misconception of like, oh, give me that big idea, but it's like for 1 6-month period. And you're like, well, I can do that, but I want to think of something that's going to take you further, so that you don't just have that one big idea and then it's gone. And then it's like, okay, let's reinvent the wheel. Like, no, if we had a great idea in media and in creative, that sucker's going to grow. And, then you're going to have all kinds of stuff spin off of that. And you're going to actually have a strong brand that people remember. It may take 2-3 years. It may take a decade, just if it's a great idea, it'll last.
Yeah. And you can have some fun on social. So I think that's where some of those like agile pieces belong.
Yeah.
So it's still part of your brand. But the idea there is you have a loyal fan base that continue to like, create a relationship with you on a social side. They've elected to follow you. So then that's where you can have some fun with the brand and the campaigns and, showcase a little bit more behind the scenes.
Well, thank you guys. I think this is a good kickoff to our Advertising is an Investment series.
Thanks for having us, Ryan.
Appreciate it, Ryan. What a great host you are. Nice sweater.